Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're zeroing in right on the macroeconomic climate of Ireland. We're going to unpack something that honestly keeps a whole lot of people awake at night, and that's the inevitable next economic downturn. But hey, rather than getting totally bogged down in anxiety, we're going to flip the script. We're transforming all that dread into grounded, structured understanding. We're going to look at exactly how an economy shifts from being vulnerable to being absolutely ready.
Okay, let's dive into this. What happens if Ireland hits another recession? Man, that is a heavy question, and it carries some immediate, intense emotional weight, right? When we talk about macroeconomics, it's so easy to just get totally lost in abstract data and charts, but at the very core of this question is a deeply human element. It's dread. Because a recession, it isn't just a downward line on a graph. It's that creeping, sinking fear that the stability you, your business, and your community rely on could literally fracture.
Section 1. The fear of recession. Macroeconomic shock. This is where national economics suddenly gets very, very personal.
So, when experts talk about a macroeconomic shock hitting Ireland, that structural shift instantly translates into personal anxiety. But how does that fear actively shape our reality? Think about it. Fear actually accelerates the exact instability we're so afraid of. It creates this crazy psychological feedback loop. People panic, capital freezes up, companies stop hiring, and suddenly a potential risk turns into an aggressive, market-shifting force. The dread of a recession, it can literally hasten its arrival. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Which brings us to Section 2, navigating economic uncertainty. Because dealing with the global climate right now is wildly unpredictable.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we contrast the unknowns with the absolute certainties. We live in this massively interconnected global economy, right? And the variables are entirely unpredictable. We don't know what's going to trigger the next major shock or even how deep it's going to go. Yet up against all those unknown wildcards, we have a very known threat. Cyclical history tells us without a doubt that a downturn is an absolute certainty. So the real challenge for Ireland is navigating this tricky environment where the threat's guaranteed, but the variables, they're a complete mystery.
Section 3. Ireland's economic resilience, structural facts. Now we shift gears from fear to the actual, grounded reality of how we handle this. Let's do a quick mental reset here. Economic resilience is the strategic ability to withstand, navigate, and recover from macroeconomic shocks. This right here is the factual, grounded counterweight to all that panic we just talked about. Resilience isn't about burying your head in the sand and pretending a recession won't hurt or magically sidestepping a global downturn. No way. It's the built-in structural capacity to absorb the hit, manage the disruption intelligently, and then bounce back way faster than the competition. It is the direct antidote to the fear and uncertainty we just outlined.
Let's move to Section 4 and see how this builds. The preparedness strategy, strategic foresight. This is strictly about how Ireland actually navigates the threat through strategic foresight.
Taking that core concept of resilience and turning it into real strategic foresight requires a strict step-by-step progression. Step 1, you have to acknowledge the fear. Validating the real anxiety of a downturn is absolutely crucial because it prevents the economic policies from just detaching from everyday reality. Step 2, you navigate the uncertainty. You do this by building dynamic systems that do not rely on perfect sunny day conditions. And finally, Step 3, you execute. Once the fear is processed and the uncertainty is mapped out, you deploy calculated structural preparedness. It's moving from raw fear to calculated action.
So the crucial point is that this entire approach comes together in what we call a core navigation formula. Grasping Ireland's economic strategy really just means understanding the continuous interplay of these three exact concepts. Fear highlights the stakes, uncertainty maps the environment we're in, and preparedness, that is the active shield deployed to protect the economy. You literally cannot build robust resilience without integrating all three of these pieces. They're like a giant puzzle.
But as we wrap up this explainer today, I really want to leave you with a stark question to ponder. Is preparedness ever truly enough? Think about it. We can acknowledge the fear, we can map the uncertainty, and we can build the most robust structural resilience imaginable. But when a truly unprecedented global macroeconomic shock hits, are there absolute limits to economic resilience? It's a provocative reality, for sure. And it's one that every single economist, policymaker, and citizen will inevitably have to face when the cycle turns. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking the hard questions, and I'll see you next time.